Let's put it this way. I mean, normally you wouldn't hear anything like this from me. But I have a long conversation with my sister about a couple minutes ago. And she brought me back to a time when we were young, we were close. And family back then meant everything. Family back then was 100% loyalty, commitment, hard working, dedicated to family values. And it reminded me of my loss. When I lost my sister to MS because they didn't have the medicine like they have today. When I lost my mother, who worked to the very time when she had stage 4 cancer and it was oozing out of her body. How hard and committed she was to her family, to her dying day. Reminded just how much children, innocent children, babies and toddlers meant to our society, meant to parents, meant to each of us. Just what innocence meant. And how you left your doors open at night. You go to the market or you go to church and you come back. Nobody broke in. Nothing was missing. Neighbors watched out for you. Your neighborhood was just an extension of your family. And I see today when all those values are gone, when all the love of family, when all the love of neighbors, everybody collectively a family, exists anymore. That's the sad part. Some people say I'm full of anger. I'm not full of anger. I'm saddened by the position we placed ourselves and what we have become. We talk about criminals, we talk about barbarians, and I use the word uncivilized, immoral, unethical. And it does describe what we see every day, what they project over the news. And even those who project over the news are in that category as well. What have we allowed ourselves to become for the sake of greed, for the sake of gluttony, for the sake of technology, for the sake of narcissism, that we sacrifice our children in schools, that we allow barbaric, uncivilized, gun-toting tyrants to take our children away, and we don't do anything to stop the atrocities, to stop the inhumane crimes, even when it affects our own children. We're so self-driven that it seems like nothing, nothing gets to our heart anymore. Nothing gets to the moral conviction of our souls, of our hearts. And we go to church every day. And we say we love God. And we say we follow his word. But yet and still we can See little children being abused, treated like animals, and nothing is done. That we're so caught up into this political correct hypocrisy, pathological lies, that we're willing to sacrifice innocent children for it. What have we become? What have we become? And I question myself. I challenge myself when talking to my sister. That those people that I call rednecks, that those people that I call inbred, diseased European white filth, in that, in my heart, can I forgive them? Because the toughest question you ask yourself is, can I forgive my enemies? Can I forgive those who abuse me? Can I forgive those who hate me? Those who rail against me, that unjustly accuse me, unjustly victimize, and prey upon the innocence of the world. And that's a tough question to ask yourself. Can you forgive them? Can you forgive a Donald Trump? Can you forgive a Ryan, a Mick McConnell? Can you forgive a Cohen? And unless you can, we're no better than they are. Because that was the toughest thing. The most elegant and pure, loving thing about Jesus. Because he held no malice against anybody. He held no hatred. He held no anger against anybody. He was all loving and forgiving, merciful, and gracious. And we that call ourselves Christians, even as I'm doing today, you have to look into that mirror and ask yourself, can you forgive? And the most difficult thing to do is forgive. There are families that haven't talked to each other for years. Families that when they even go to their deathbed, they hold on to that malice. They hold on to that hatred until the day they die. Why? When forgiveness is so easy, all you have to do is put yourself in a place. If it wasn't for the grace of God, there go I. I could be the same way. I also could be an egomaniac, a mental ill, xenophobic, misogynist, pervert, tweeting, delusional, mental ill agenda of racist, bigoted, systemic hatred of people different than myself. the toughest thing is to look at oneself and analyze yourself and analyze your position and where you're at in life, and what you have become. There's a phrase by David, King David, back in the day. And it said, Lord, purge me with hyssop, that I may become clean. Wash me, that I may be as pure as snow. Create in me a clean heart, and renew the right spirit within me. That's a prayer I pray all the time, because in my finite existence, my finite imperfection, I'm flawed. And no matter how I look at it, I'm flawed, because the flesh just desires to please itself. And the greatest thing that had ever happened to me is that I surrendered my life to Jesus. And it has nothing to do with a Bible thumper, it has nothing to do with Pentecostal, with religion. It has to do with not being satisfied with oneself. That you see a greater picture, something more powerful, something more endearing, something more loving, more merciful, more gracious than you'll ever be. Something that truly changed your life for the better. And you can live a lifetime and you'll never grasp even a 16th of the perfect love that I'm talking about, the pure, adulterated love that I'm talking about. Because you're flawed, because you're finite flesh with limited knowledge and limited power. And then you look at something that's all power, all knowing, all seeing, all hearing. The very existence of humanity itself, of the universe. And it shows that the level of inept stupidity and ignorance is when we even question that. Or question the very existence of our Creator. I wonder at times, because I see the level of hopelessness in this world, in this particular society. That it seems like people have just lost all sense of humanity, all sense of mercy and forgiveness, because we see so much ugly ugliness of evil, but we fail to forget the very existence of evil that has possessed the earth. We forget that it's not flesh and blood, that it's actually spiritual wickedness. It's a power. It's a cloud, a dark cloud that has covered the earth. And the little light that we see every day, a smiling child, a giving heart, someone helping someone across the street, like I do, giving up my lunch and giving it to a homeless person. helping a lady take her groceries to her car, open a door, giving a little baby in a car $1 and telling his mom to buy her a donut. Things I do on a daily basis just to put a smile on somebody's face. Those things make a difference. So it's not all about anger. It's not all about how you perceive a person because you don't know that person's life, what that person does on a daily basis. But we think we know them. Somehow we think that we kind of perceive what this person is about, but you don't know until you sit down and actually have a conversation with a person. That's the first thing I've done with homeless people because everybody talks about their drug addicts or alcoholics, whatever the case may be, but it's not always true because there's some people who just lost hope. They lost a vision. They lost a purpose in life. And for whatever reason, they just gave up. And you would know that if you would take the time out, like I have in my life, and spend time talking to people, particularly a young lady in Atlantic City who was a drug addict. And I came across her, stopped at a McDonald's one day and grabbed some breakfast before I went to work. And she was just sitting there. And for whatever reason, a voice just told me to go over there and buy her breakfast and talk. And we did. We had a conversation and she began to just spew out her life. As saddened and pathetic as it was, it touched my heart. And every day after that, I would make it a point to stop there and I'd pick up my breakfast, buy her breakfast, and sit down and talk and encourage her. And I told her, you're never going to change until you get to the point where I got to in my life, where I just got sick. Not because of drugs or alcohol, right? I just got sick. Of just being average. And I told her, you're going to have to be to that point of getting sick of being sick. And I surrendered my heart to God only because I I want I wanted that change. I wanted that point in life where I was different and that I seen the change in myself. One day she wasn't there. and I asked the manager of the McDonald's, have you seen her? And he said, no, we haven't seen her for a while. Unknown to me, she was getting treatment. And one day she came into the store and she said, Mr. Shockley. And she looked better than she ever looked. Looked just like an average person, like everybody else. He said, I thank you. And she said, you're right. She said, I looked in the mirror and I just got sick of being sick. She said, I got sick of being sick. And she cleaned herself up and she enjoyed her life. Pretty much. And I will always address a stolen America. You have to get sick of being sick before you actually do something. And that's where we have to get in this country. We have to get to the position where you're sick of being sick. Because what we are seeing in society today is not normal. It's not ethical. It's not honorable. It's not moral. It's not who we are as a people. And when we talk about the disease European filth, we're not talking about average working class America. We're not talking about people who go out every day, work slave wages that can't compete with inflation and the cost of living, the debt driven economy we live in. We're not talking about those people. We're not even talking about the people who are the incest inbred rednecks we talk about because they don't know any better. Because I've been in the lower parts of America, the poverty, and I've talked with those people, and I've seen that the hatred in their eyes for me, for no reason, only because my skin is darker than theirs. And having a little girl come up to me and wipe her hand across my skin and say, "Mommy, it doesn't rub off." So it runs deeper than that. It's something that it's scary because you teach a child, an innocent child, ignorance. It's gonna grow to be ignorant. You teach a child hate, it's gonna grow up to hate. You teach a child love, it's gonna grow up to love. So, like I'm saying, there are two spirits that dwell with men always, and that's good and evil. That battle, which a lot of us are unaware of, ignorant of, and it goes on 24/7, 365. The battle of good and evil, that unseen war that you don't even know exists, the unseen things that exist in this world that you know nothing of because we live in a multi-dimensional universe. Unfortunately, it's not one dimensional as we may think it is. It's multi-dimensional. And the reason why you question yourself a lot of times with things that goes on and ask how can it possibly happen in a civilized society, but it does because there's no intelligent answer, and it just goes back the rulers of this world of pure adulterated evil because it has no heart, it has no soul, so it does things without a conscience, without feeling. It's like a zombie state. And to ask yourself, can you forgive a Trump? Yes, you can. You have to because if it wasn't for the grace of God, you could be the same way. Can you forgive a Putin? Can you forget a Kim Jong from North Korea? Dictators all around the world. The Rothschild, the Illuminati, the Vatican Church, with all the pedophiles and child molesting and raping going on within a church that's supposed to solidify the very essence of God. And you have to tell yourself yes, because if not, we're no better than they are. And as all the atrocities of all the inhumane, merciless killing, the massacre and slaughter, and the destruction of people's lifestyle and homes and country, the pillaging and raping and stealing of rich mineral resources and all those things, the pharmaceutical companies, which are no more than just drug dealers, and the radiation and chemo that kills and it doesn't cure, and it doesn't matter because it's millions and millions of dollars of profit over human life. Of all those things you can think about that angers you, that makes your skin crawl, yes, you have to forgive. Because if not, then we're no better than they are. We become the barbarians. We become heathens. You have to pray. It's the only recourse. It's the only sanity um, that keeps you human. Is that you do have to pray. You do have to forgive. You do have to ask God. But the truth is, and even the Bible says, there are people born for hell without repentance. So of all the prayer and all the forgiveness and mercy and grace you can show them, they're born for hell. They're just born evil. And there's no explanation because we only have that finite, limited knowledge. What I ask today, as I took that look in the mirror myself, and I'm going to try and change. Although I'll still put my videos and I will still put my rants out there and exposing injustice. But in all of that, Trump, I forgive you. Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill, Supreme Court, Congress, I forgive you. Although I despise your ways and the ways that you do things, I forgive you because you're a human being. But what we have to do, a stolen America, we have to correct the injustice, regardless how you may feel personally about it. We have to free the people on reservations. We have to free the innocent in prisons. We have to free our children being caged like animals. We have to free people living in poverty. We have to free the elderly who are being preyed upon with Social Security, fixed income that doesn't even pay for their medicine. And when they do pay for their medicine, there's nothing left over for them to eat except for cat food. And they have to make a choice every day to eat or buy medicine. We have to bring to the knowledge of a so-called civilized society what state we're at. Because if we don't, where are we better than any dictator, any third world country? What are we any different than people living in the jungle? What any different are we than cannibals, barbarians, heathens, uncivilized, subculture? We're not. So it behooves every one of us to take a close look at ourselves as humanity. Take a very close look and analyze. Who are we? What have we become? Where are we headed? Are we headed to self-destruction? Or are we headed for unity and peace? And as much as the Bible has predict, my friends, it's not favorable for us. Because for whatever reason, we just don't get it. And I sincerely mean that from my heart and soul. We just don't get it. Because from the beginning of this world, and decades and centuries, we repeat the same inept, ignorant stupidity, not unifying, not a peaceful resolution, but it's always about war. It's always being at odds with each other. It's always the evil side, not the good side. It's always the dominance of 1% over 99%. The oxymoron of saying you're outnumbered, but somehow 1% can just rule the 99%. We haven't gotten that. We just, I don't know. I have no answers. That's why I pray to God, because it's the only recourse I have. Because it would drive you insane. It just would, because people just don't get it, and that's the sad part. If you can look and see innocent babies, and this is what did it for me, that put me over the top of everything that took place. That you can just take a baby from its mother, a toddler, little children, preteen, teens, and put them in cages, and try and justify it by calling them criminals, murderers. But the criminals and murderers that stole the country, you overlook, and that's okay. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to forgive. You have to, because once again, if we don't forgive, if we don't try to find hope, we don't try to find some sense of goodness, then we become just like them. We are a part of that subculture of bottom feeders, the evil servants of Satan. And if we don't, if we're not merciful, if we're not forgiving, we become just like them. It's like when Jesus said, you are changed by the renewing of your mind. Just as a man thinks, so is he. So if you think good, you're good. If you think evil, you're evil. And there's just people out there who just seriously love being evil. They just love chaos. They love confusion. And Satan is the author of confusion. He is the author of evil, the evil incarnate. Because there's no human interpretation. It's just evil. Because civilized human beings don't do those things. Don't abuse babies. Don't abuse toddlers. Don't abuse children. Any fiber of a person's soul, you just, those things you don't do. You just don't. I mean, you may hurt one another, but innocent children, babies, no. For once in our life, and I say this to everyone, for once in our life, let's unify. Let's become one voice, one people, one voice, one purpose, one choice. Let's analyze ourselves and let's become human again. God bless. Side of me you normally don't see, but I hope to show you more of that.